Everything you think you are, your habits, your insecurities, your confidence, your fears, your self-worth, has been programmed into you like a signal broadcast from an invisible transmitter. These patterns repeat. They feel solid. They seem permanent. But they're not. Not even close. Your identity is not carved into stone. It's vibrating through waves. At the very root of who you think you are lies something far more fluid than flesh and thought. Something that behaves more like a song than a sculpture. Your beliefs, emotions, even your perceptions of time are harmonics in a frequency field. A field that you are capable of altering. Right now, consciously. This isn't philosophy dressed up as science fiction. This is real. Quantum physics has already revealed that what we once thought of as solid matter is mostly empty space, held together by patterns of energy and probability. Neuroscience has shown us that our brains don't react to reality directly, they react to our interpretation of it, filtered through expectations and memory. And metaphysical traditions for centuries have whispered about the illusion of the fixed self. Now, all of these perspectives are converging, and they're saying the same thing. You are not static. You are a waveform, and this means something extraordinary. You are programmable. But this isn't about shallow, wishful thinking or surface-level affirmations. We are going deeper into the energetic scaffolding of identity itself, into the waveform level. So, what does this journey look like? Over the course of this exploration, we will examine 12 transformative phases that each unlock a layer of your identity, helping you reshape your internal frequency to match the version of yourself that already exists, just slightly out of reach. Not a fantasy, a frequency shift. You'll learn how the illusion of a solid self is trapping you in place, how quantum observation is collapsing your potential, how parallel timelines contain versions of you that are healthier, wealthier, more free, and how to access them. We'll go into the mechanics of waveform reprogramming, where thoughts don't just describe who you are, they encode it. You'll discover how willpower, when properly directed, isn't struggle. It's a laser beam of energetic authority. We'll uncover how resonance with higher emotions can override the gravitational pull of your past. How language itself becomes quantum code when used with precision. How your body posture and breath are not afterthoughts but anchors that hold your frequency in place. And ultimately, you'll confront a truth most people never face. To become who you are meant to be, you must allow the old frequencies to collapse. Your old self must end so the next can rise. This is not a linear transformation. It's a recalibration. Quantum willpower is the conscious act of tuning your inner signal to a higher resonance, and watching reality respond like a mirror adjusting to your new broadcast. The ideas you're about to hear may challenge everything you've been told about how change happens. They require curiosity, commitment, and a willingness to accept one of the most profound truths available to human consciousness. You are not who you are by accident. You are who you are by repetition, and repetition can be rewritten. Let's begin. You wake up in the morning. You look in the mirror. You see a face. You have memories, preferences, opinions. There's a name that echoes in your head. It all feels stable, consistent, real. But the consistency you feel is not evidence of truth. It's evidence of programming. Every part of the self that feels solid is the result of repeated energetic patterns, neurological, emotional, behavioral. But at the quantum level, nothing is truly solid. Every cell in your body is made of atoms. Every atom is 99.999999% empty space. The illusion of solidity is created through coherence, how particles vibrate in harmony. That coherence can be broken or rewritten. Here's the twist. Your self-concept, your understanding of who you are, is not a fixed object. It's not even a thing. It's a wave. More specifically, it's a set of intersecting waves, energy fields, thought patterns, emotional frequencies, and neural feedback loops. These waves generate the experience of being you. But they're not you. They're just the current channel. Let's go deeper. In quantum physics, wave-particle duality describes how electrons and other particles behave. Depending on how they're observed, they appear either as particles, solid points, or waves, fields of probability. Identity works the same way. When you observe yourself in the mirror and think, "This is who I am," you're collapsing your waveform. You're focusing the probability field into a single outcome, a self. The more often you observe that self, the more real it becomes. You literally reinforce it through repeated observation. And that's the trap. If you keep looking at the same version of yourself, if you keep replaying the same internal dialogue, responding with the same emotional tones, walking with the same rhythm, you're tuning your consciousness to that specific version. You are broadcasting and receiving that frequency, again and again, until it becomes a loop. And loops feel like cages when you don't realize they're optional. Now let's bring in another layer. Ancient mystic systems, Hinduism, Hermeticism, Taoism, and others have all described the self as illusion. Not illusion in the sense of fake, but illusion in the sense of being impermanent, ever-shifting, and created through perception. These ancient systems didn't have access to modern physics, but they intuitively understood what today's quantum science is now confirming: that the world and the self behaves more like vibration than form. In Hindu thought, the term Maya refers to the veil of illusion that covers the true self. In Hermetic teachings, everything is vibration. In Taoism, the essence of life is not to resist flow but to ride it. These traditions were not naive, they were accurate, just using different language. So why does all of this matter when it comes to your transformation? Because every moment you spend clinging to the idea that your identity is permanent, you reinforce the electromagnetic field that holds that identity in place. Your brain is an electrochemical organ. Your thoughts generate electricity. That electricity has a frequency. That frequency affects the body, the emotions, and even the structure of your DNA through epigenetic expression. You are, at every level, being tuned, either by your unconscious habits or by your conscious will. To change, you don't need to force a new personality. You don't need to become something else. You need to tune differently. Let's break this into a framework. 1. Awareness of your signal. Start observing your reactions, beliefs, speech patterns, and emotions as signals, not facts. The phrase, "I'm not good at this," isn't truth, it's a frequency. That means it can be interrupted. 2. Detachment from identity as form. Begin treating the self not as something you are, but as something you are currently broadcasting. This unlocks the flexibility needed to make changes without resistance. 3. Recognition of the wave nature of self. Every thought and feeling you repeat becomes a vibratory field. Repetition doesn't mean truth. It means frequency reinforcement. Your default self is not you. It's just what's been reinforced the most. 4. Focused energy realignment. Choose thought patterns, emotional tones, and bodily postures that represent the identity you want to inhabit. Not symbolically, energetically. Your body holds memory as vibration. Change the posture, you change the tone of the signal. Let's not romanticize this. It's not always easy to see yourself as a vibration when the world demands labels, jobs, social roles, and predictability. But this is why quantum willpower matters. Because the more deeply conditioned your identity, the more power it takes to break the pattern. And that power doesn't come from grit. It comes from resonance. A stronger frequency displaces a weaker one, but you must generate it first. And so we reach the threshold. If your self is an energetic loop, if your thoughts and habits are signals, and if your biology is more empty space than matter, then change is not about effort. It's about frequency calibration. Next, we will explore how your own observation creates the identity you're stuck in, and how to shift the signal. There is a moment in quantum mechanics that bends the mind: the double-slit experiment. Electrons fired at a barrier with two slits form an interference pattern, like waves, unless someone observes them. When they are watched, they behave like particles. The act of observation alters the outcome. Not metaphorically, literally. Now consider this: when you constantly observe yourself through the lens of past choices, failures, limitations, and trauma, you are collapsing your own waveform into the same version again and again. You are playing the role of the observer, and that role becomes your prison. Consciousness does not merely reflect reality, it creates boundaries for it. When you look in the mirror and think, "This is who I am," you're acting as an observer in your own quantum experiment. You are reinforcing the signal that collapses probability into a narrow slice of identity. The more often you observe through the same lens, the more that reality becomes dominant. The self you identify with is not the only possible outcome. It's simply the most consistently observed. Here's how this shows up. You struggle with procrastination. Every time you notice yourself putting things off, you think, "That's typical. I always do this." That thought is not neutral, it is an observation, a signal. And that observation collapses your probability field into a timeline where procrastination defines you. The more you repeat that, the more locked in it becomes. Let's go deeper. The observer effect means that you are not just shaped by reality, you shape it with attention. Attention is not passive. It is directional energy. What you focus on consistently becomes energetically coherent. That coherence manifests patterns. Those patterns become traits. The traits become identity, and identity becomes destiny. But this process works both ways. You can collapse into limitation or into evolution. Here's the key. The version of you that is more confident, more focused, more healthy already exists in the field of probability. That's not a dream. That's physics. The field is a range of all possible outcomes. Attention selects. Belief stabilizes. Emotion energizes. Habit cements. Now examine your inner observer. You notice your flaws more than your strengths. You review failures more than successes. You repeat self-critical dialogue far more often than self-honoring language. This isn't harmless. It is waveform reinforcement. You are the observer and the sculptor. And the longer you sustain a frequency of self-doubt, the more tangible it becomes. But there's a deeper insight here. Observation is not just mental, it's energetic. Your body posture, your breath rhythm, your tone of voice, even the micromuscles in your face, they all carry energetic information. You're observing yourself constantly through these subtle mirrors, and every signal you generate feeds the identity loop. So the question becomes, can you consciously shift the observer? Yes, but only by withdrawing from automatic perception and installing a conscious one. Here's how. 1. Interrupt the existing observation pattern. Interrupting is the first step. Anytime you notice self-talk that reinforces limitation, pause. No replacement yet. Just stop. The disruption alone loosens the energetic grip. 2. Observe through a different lens. Begin to ask, what else is also true? If you feel lazy, can you also acknowledge that you are learning how to build momentum? If you feel fearful, can you also note your courage in facing discomfort? Truth is multifaceted. You must choose which one to stabilize. 3. Collapse into empowering potential. Focus your mental and emotional energy on the version of you that is already operating at a higher frequency. Don't fantasize about them. Observe them clearly, consistently. Speak like them. Walk like them. Breathe like them. Energetically impersonate them until the field adapts. 4. Sustain observation with certainty. Most people try to shift their identity with scattered energy. They try for a few days, then collapse back into old self-observation. To trigger waveform collapse into a new self, your energy must be coherent. Certainty is coherence. Feel it, know it, reinforce it. Your subconscious listens not to words, but to signals. The frequency behind the words matters more than the words themselves. When you say, "I'm successful," but feel doubt, the field listens to doubt. You're not broadcasting the phrase, you're broadcasting the energy behind it. That's why traditional affirmations often fail. They lack resonance. To become effective, observation must be fully embodied. Every part of you must participate in the new signal, thought, breath, movement, tone, rhythm. And here's the final realization. Observation is participation. You are not watching your identity unfold. You are generating the reality as you observe it. And with quantum willpower, you become the conscious participant, not the unconscious mirror. Next, we will explore how different versions of you already exist, and how you can shift into alignment with a new timeline that already holds the identity you're seeking. Every day, you wake up in a version of reality that is shaped not just by circumstance, but by selection. You are not on a single track. You are not on a single path. You are on a frequency, and that frequency determines which timeline you're tuned to. A timeline is not just a collection of external events. It is a stream of probability that carries specific energetic signatures, thoughts, emotions, patterns, synchronicities. The version of you that thrives exists on a different timeline than the version that struggles. Both are real. Both are available. Which one you inhabit is determined by your current vibrational match. You are not chasing your future, you are tuning to it. Here's how this works. The field of quantum potential contains infinite timelines. On one, you are exhausted, doubtful, confused. On another, you are creative, resilient, deeply aligned. These aren't abstract ideas. They are energetic pathways. Each one vibrates with specific coherence. Your internal state acts like a receiver. You don't earn the better timeline, you synchronize with it. This means one of the most life-changing truths you will ever hear. The version of you that holds everything you want already exists. But you can't reach it by dragging your current identity forward. You must tune your internal signal to the energetic signature of that timeline. Let's get specific. If you habitually react with frustration, worry, or defeat, you are matching the frequency of timelines that carry more of that energy. You're not unlucky, you're attuned. But if you can learn to carry the frequency of inner certainty, inspiration, and clarity, you will begin to match timelines where those qualities are reinforced by external events. This isn't wishful thinking. This is timeline alchemy. Timeline alchemy is the practice of identifying your current resonance and consciously shifting it to match the signal of the identity you prefer. And once that match is stabilized, the external reality begins to shift. Not immediately, but inevitably. Here's the framework. 1. Audit your current timeline signal. Start with brutal clarity. Track your dominant thoughts, your recurring emotions, your posture, your inner commentary. Don't moralize, just notice. What energetic timeline are you reinforcing? 2. Clarify the signature of the desired timeline. This is not about goals. It's about identity. On the timeline where you are thriving, how do you feel when you wake up? How do you breathe under pressure? What do you say to yourself when you succeed or fail? Every frequency detail matters. 3. Collapse the frequency gap. This is the leap. Begin to run the internal operating system of that future self now. Speak like them. Make decisions like them. Move like them. This isn't pretending. This is synchronization. The more often you run that energetic code, the more your reality will begin to reflect it. 4. Let go of emotional time lag. When things don't shift quickly, most people collapse back into their old identity. Don't. The field requires consistency. Time in this context is not linear. It's elastic. The more emotional coherence you bring to the new identity, the faster the timeline shift occurs. You cannot drag your old beliefs into the new timeline. They are incompatible. The timeline where you are confident, inspired, and empowered will reject the energetic codes of doubt, hesitation, and victimhood. This is not punishment. This is resonance law. You must become allergic to the signals of your old self. This means you must stop repeating the emotional loops that magnetize the undesired timeline. You must become extremely precise in your energetic hygiene. Thoughts and emotions that are out of alignment must be discarded. Not argued with, not justified, discarded. And here's what happens when you stabilize the new frequency. Synchronicity increases. Opportunities appear. Resistance decreases. Not because the universe rewards you, but because you've moved to a new signal. One that naturally supports the version of you you've become. You don't need to force this. You need to maintain it. Now let's go one layer deeper. There are clues around you, microsignals, that confirm which timeline you're on. Notice the quality of your interactions, the timing of events, the tone of your own inner voice. These are not random, they are timeline indicators. And when you start noticing friction, frustration, or chaos, it means you're out of sync. That's your cue to shift, not to spiral. Shift through breath, through new decisions, through thought interruption, through laughter, through movement. through any act that reclaims control of your signal. And never confuse delay with denial. The timeline you seek exists. You don't need to earn it. You only need to match it. Next, we will explore how your thoughts act as frequency encoders, and how they can be used to program identity at the waveform level. Thoughts are not harmless. They are not random, idle, or inconsequential. They are generators of frequency, each one emitting a unique energetic signature. And over time, repeated thoughts become more than just patterns. They become blueprints. When you think something consistently, you're encoding that frequency into your identity. You are programming the waveform that defines the version of you that exists right now. The key insight is this: thoughts don't describe your identity. They construct it, but only when two conditions are met: emotional charge and repetition. These are the activators. Without emotional charge, thoughts are like faint static, there but without impact. Without repetition, thoughts are like sparks in the void, bright, but gone in an instant. It is the fusion of emotional intensity and repetitive focus that transforms a thought into a waveform pattern, one that your body and mind begin to mirror. Let's break this down from the quantum perspective. At the smallest scale, everything is energy. Your thoughts are neuroelectrical pulses. Those pulses have measurable frequency. They ripple through the body, triggering chemical cascades, emotional states, and eventually habitual behaviors. Each time you think, "I'm not ready," or "nothing ever works out," you aren't just entertaining an idea, you're reinforcing a field. A field that starts as mental signal, becomes emotional tone, and then manifests as personality traits. This is waveform encoding in action. The tragedy is that most people encode by accident. They don't choose the thoughts they imprint. They absorb them from childhood, society, relationships, trauma, and they rehearse these scripts over and over again until their identity is a loop. Not a choice, but choice is the tool. Choice is the tuner. You have the ability to select which signals you repeat. And when those signals are clear, emotionally charged, and consistently reinforced, they begin to override the old waveform. This isn't motivation. This is quantum reprogramming. Now, to activate this process consciously, you need more than positive thinking. You need energetic precision. That begins with brainwave states. Most people live in beta, high-frequency, surface-level cognition. This is the realm of survival thinking, analysis, and habitual reaction. It's not where reprogramming happens. True reprogramming occurs in slower, deeper states: alpha, theta, and gamma. Alpha is the relaxed state, often experienced during meditation or creative flow. It's open and receptive. Theta is even deeper. This is the state between wakefulness and sleep, where the subconscious is most accessible. Gamma is high-frequency coherence, associated with insight, compassion, and heightened awareness. It's rare but powerful. Theta is your gateway to identity change. In theta, the subconscious becomes impressionable. This is when thoughts bypass resistance. In this state, when you repeat a thought with emotion, you're not just thinking, you're instructing. You're issuing a command at the waveform level. This is why practices like visualization are so powerful. Not because they make you feel good, but because they encode frequency through imagined experience. The brain doesn't distinguish between real and vividly imagined events. It encodes both the same way. You can use this to your advantage. Here's a method for waveform reprogramming using thoughts as frequency encoders. 1. Enter a theta-primed state. Begin with slow, rhythmic breathing. Close your eyes. Extend the exhale. Allow the mind to soften. The goal is not to suppress thought, but to slow its pace. Use auditory cues if needed, binaural beats, slow ambient tones. As your body relaxes, your brain begins to shift. 2. Activate the emotional charge. Choose the identity trait you wish to install. Not the outcome, the identity. For example, I am decisive under pressure. I speak with clarity. I attract aligned connections. Now, don't just say it. Feel it. Imagine a moment when this is your normal experience. Let it become vivid. The emotional sensation must be present. Otherwise, the frequency will be weak. 3. Encode through repetition and rhythm. Repeat the phrase internally, not like a chant, but like a code. Let it pulse with the rhythm of your breath. Let it take root. Let your body feel what it's like to live with that identity. This is not pretending. This is rehearsal. And the subconscious responds to rehearsal like reality. 4. Anchor the signal in physical action. When you come out of the theta state, take one small action that matches the identity you just rehearsed. Could be how you speak, how you stand, or how you respond to a message. This anchors the new frequency into movement, which helps lock it into the nervous system. Each cycle you complete reinforces the waveform. And when you do this consistently, your biology begins to adjust. Your nervous system reorients. Your reflexive responses shift. Your posture, voice tone, and gaze begin to carry the new code. But here's the nuance. Your body may resist at first. Old patterns are deeply embedded, not just in the mind, but in muscle memory, hormonal baselines, and neurochemical expectations. This resistance is not failure. It is feedback. It tells you the previous waveform is still active. You override it by holding the new frequency longer, louder, and with more coherence than before. You are not convincing the subconscious with logic. You are commanding it with frequency. And over time, as you rehearse these codes, your identity becomes increasingly aligned with the signal you've chosen. Others begin to respond to you differently, not because you're pretending, but because you're transmitting a new frequency. An energy speaks louder than words. Next, we will explore the architecture of quantum will and how to generate a signal strong enough to bend the fabric of identity itself. The word willpower conjures up ideas of strain, effort, sacrifice. The battle between what you want and what you must do. But true quantum will isn't about struggle. It's about authority. Quantum will is the inner force that commands the waveform to rearrange. This isn't metaphor. This is energetic law. When your internal signal reaches a certain threshold of coherence, when thought, emotion, intention, and action are in perfect alignment, it bends reality. Not in defiance of physics, but in cooperation with it. Will is resonance. The stronger the resonance, the more influence it has on the field. To understand quantum will, you must first let go of the old model of willpower, where change is a battle between your higher self and your cravings, between your desires and your discipline. That model fails because it pits parts of you against each other. Quantum will is unified. It doesn't suppress. It aligns. Think of a laser. A laser is not more powerful than a light bulb because it has more energy. It's more powerful because it's coherent. Every photon is moving in the same direction, in the same phase, with the same intention. This is what gives it penetrating force. Your mind must become like a laser. Most people operate like a light bulb. Scattered attention, divided intention, contradictory thought and emotion. You want success, but you fear attention. You want clarity, but you rehearse confusion. This incoherence weakens your signal. You emit noise instead of instruction. The quantum field responds not to desire, but to coherence. Now, how do you build this force? 1. Clarify identity intent. Will requires direction. If you try to generate will without precision, you burn out. Define the identity you are constructing, not just in words, but in energetic texture. What does it feel like? How does it interact? What does it avoid? This gives your will something to calibrate toward. 2. Align thoughts, emotion, and action. Once the identity is clear, examine your alignment. Are your thoughts aligned with the self? Are your dominant emotions congruent? Are your actions moving in harmony? Wherever there is a mismatch, energy is lost. Audit and adjust. 3. Eliminate energetic leakage. Energy leaks through doubt, people-pleasing, over-explaining, procrastination, and chronic distraction. Each of these behaviors fragments the signal. Will is about preserving signal strength. Refuse to give attention to what dilutes the field. 4. Establish rituals of reinforcement. Rituals are not superstition. They are frequency anchors. Morning routines, movement, breathwork, silence, visualization. Each one stabilizes the signal. Build rituals not for productivity, but for resonance. 5. Enter flow states regularly. Flow is where action and awareness merge. In this state, the signal is strong. Time distorts. The self recedes. The field becomes malleable. Seek activities that induce this state: deep creation, focus sprints, embodied movement. Flow is quantum will in motion. 6. Respond to resistance with power, not panic. Resistance will come. It's not a sign to stop. It's a sign that the field is being disrupted. Most people back down when resistance rises. Quantum will demands the opposite. Lean in, amplify, refuse to weaken the signal just because the external hasn't caught up yet. There is a point in this process when coherence becomes so strong, the old identity simply can't function anymore. The thoughts feel foreign. The emotions lose their grip. The habits no longer make sense. You've shifted resonance. Not incrementally, completely. And at that point, the field begins to arrange itself around the new signal. Opportunities arrive. People shift. Circumstances align. Not because the world has changed, but because your frequency has. And the field follows frequency. This is the power of quantum will. Not to push harder, but to hold the signal longer, sharper, with more intensity than the noise of doubt, fear, or fatigue. Will is not a force you apply to the world. It's a frequency you become. And once you hold it with enough strength, the world responds, not because you control it, but because you've tuned yourself into a reality where alignment is the default. Next, we will explore how resonance becomes the key to maintaining your highest energetic self, without bypassing the pain that comes with growth. You cannot hold two frequencies at once without distortion. One will rise, the other will fall. Your body, your mind, your field, they are always aligning to one dominant signal. Resonance is not a metaphor. It is the literal synchronization of energy. When one frequency vibrates with enough power and clarity, anything around it will begin to match. That includes you. That includes others. That includes your life. The self you want to become is not something you chase. It's a frequency you match. That's the rebirth. Not becoming something new, but aligning so completely with the higher signal that the old version of you can no longer sustain itself. The habits, the doubt, the self-sabotage, those cannot survive in a coherent field. But resonance isn't built by accident. It is cultivated. Every thought you allow, every emotion you dwell on, every interaction you tolerate. It either builds your resonance or breaks it down. And your identity follows the pattern. Let's look at this structurally. There are three forces shaping your personal resonance: emotional tone, energetic integrity, environmental reinforcement. Let's start with emotional tone. Your dominant emotional state is a frequency. It becomes a magnetic center. Joy, clarity, determination. These are high resonance emotions. They expand your field. They attract timelines that support expansion. Fear, resentment, guilt, these are low resonance. They constrict your field. They limit visibility. They signal alignment with smaller possibilities. The goal is not to suppress lower emotions. The goal is to shift your baseline. High-resonance emotions must be normalized, not visited occasionally. You can train your system to stabilize them, but you do not achieve that through forced positivity. You achieve it by cleaning interference. This is where energetic integrity enters. Energetic integrity means your thoughts, speech, and actions are in sync. No double signals. No contradiction between your internal world and external behavior. When you say one thing and feel another, you create interference. When you pursue a goal you don't emotionally want, you distort your field. That distortion weakens your resonance. To live in resonance is to live in truth. This requires uncomfortable honesty. You must cut ties with the version of you who performs for acceptance. You must stop entertaining thoughts that weaken you. You must abandon actions that generate friction in the nervous system, even if they please others. You're not seeking comfort. You're seeking clarity. The clearer the signal, the stronger the field. Now let's add the final piece: environmental reinforcement. Resonance is fragile when it's new. Until your field becomes strong enough to hold itself, it will be shaped by its environment. That includes people, places, digital input, and even your physical space. Every conversation you tolerate with someone who anchors your old identity is weakening your signal. Every space you frequent that holds memories of past versions of you is holding that pattern alive. To sustain the rebirth, you must become selective. This isn't about rejection. It's about preservation. Until your frequency becomes dominant, you must protect it. That means creating boundaries. That means purging inputs. That means building an environment that reflects the self you're becoming, not the self you've outgrown. Now, let's look at the practices that reinforce resonance. 1. Sound and tone. Your voice carries frequency. Speak slowly, clearly, with authority. Use affirmations not as empty phrases, but as sound signatures that your nervous system can recognize. Sing, hum, or use sound tones to recalibrate energy when emotional charge overwhelms you. 2. Emotional coherence drills. Feel an emotion that reflects your highest self. Gratitude, power, stillness. Hold it without thought. Just the emotion. Practice sustaining it. Time yourself. Can you hold joy for 2 minutes without distraction? 5, 10. This is coherence training. 3. Resonance breathwork. Use rhythmic breath to elevate your field. Inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 8. Do this for 5 minutes. This pattern triggers parasympathetic activation and expands your energetic field. It also makes your system more receptive to identity reprogramming. 4. Silence as reset. Silence isn't just absence of noise. It is neutral field. Spend time in silence daily, not meditating, not thinking, just being. Let your system recalibrate. The stiller you are, the easier it becomes to detect what's distorting your frequency. 5. Physical symmetry. Your body posture influences energy flow. Sit, stand, and walk in alignment. Don't slouch. Don't contract your chest. Don't stare at the ground. Physical symmetry creates neurological harmony, which enhances resonance. Your body is a broadcast tower. Each of these practices is not a routine. They are recalibration tools. You will feel resistance. Resistance is not a sign to stop. It is proof the old frequency is being disrupted. Push through. Hold the field. Let the old version burn. And when it does, when the signal stabilizes, everything begins to shift. Your tone becomes magnetic. People respond to your presence differently. Your decisions become clearer. You attract experiences that reinforce the new identity. Not because you're lucky, because you're now resonating with a different layer of the field. This is resonance rebirth. Not a metaphor, a mechanical reality. Next, we will explore the trap of the identity loop and how most people live inside a self-generated simulation without knowing it. Most people are not living in reality. They are living inside a simulation, a feedback loop of thought, memory, emotion, and reaction that recycles endlessly. And they call this loop me. But it's not you. It's an echo. The identity loop is the repeated energetic broadcast of past thoughts and emotions. It becomes so familiar that you stop noticing it. You assume this looping pattern is who you are. But it's not. It's programming. Here's how it works. You experience an event. You interpret it. You feel something. That emotion triggers thoughts. Those thoughts reinforce a belief. That belief generates behavior. That behavior creates outcomes. The outcomes validate the original interpretation. This is the loop. It is self-sustaining. It feeds on confirmation. Every loop strengthens the neurological wiring. And the longer it runs, the more it becomes invisible. You don't just think the loop. You become it. This is not consciousness. This is automation. And most of what you call your personality is just an accumulation of these loops. This explains why change feels impossible. You're trying to install a new identity on top of a system that's still running old code. You can't override a loop while it's active. You must interrupt it. Let's deconstruct this. The loop has 3 core elements: trigger, narrative, reinforcement behavior. First, the trigger. It can be anything: a look, a tone, a delay, a thought. It activates the emotional memory. This doesn't come from logic. It comes from stored data, usually in the body. Next, the narrative. The mind scrambles to make sense of the emotional charge. It fills the gap with meaning. This meaning usually mirrors a past wound. I'm not good enough. They don't respect me. This always happens. Then, the reinforcement behavior. You act in a way that validates the story. Maybe you withdraw. Maybe you lash out. Maybe you self-sabotage. Whatever it is, it sends you back to the beginning. Here's the breakthrough. The loop is not fixed. It's fragile. But only when you stop feeding it. Here's how you break it. 1. Pattern interrupt. The moment you notice a repetitive reaction, pause. Don't explain it. Don't justify it. Don't argue with it. Just interrupt it. Stand up. Clap. Change posture. Breathe differently. Disrupt the rhythm. This is the crack in the loop. 2. Sensory disruption. The loop lives in sensory memory. Change your input. Splash cold water on your face. Stare into a mirror and smile. Put on different music. Shift lighting. The faster you change the environment, the weaker the loop becomes. 3. Introduce contradictory behavior. Do the opposite of what the loop expects. If the loop says retreat, engage. If it says lash out, breathe. If it says quit, double down. This reversal shocks the pattern. It loses energy. 4. Track the emotional signal. Most loops are anchored in the body. Anxiety in the gut. Shame in the chest. Numbness in the throat. Place attention there. Breathe into it. Don't resist. Just observe. The emotion will rise. Let it. The loop cannot survive unresisted presence. 5. Install a new code. Once the old loop is disrupted, replace it. Not with a thought, but with a signal. Speak something powerful aloud. Move with intention. Repeat a phrase while pacing or breathing deeply. This conditions a new loop. Repeat this sequence enough and the old loop weakens. Your nervous system no longer associates the trigger with the old outcome. A new pathway is formed. A new loop begins. This is not easy. It's not quick. But it is inevitable if you persist. And here's the deeper truth. Most people's lives are not limited by potential. They're limited by unbroken loops. Energetic simulations that masquerade as identity. You can break them. You must. You do not need to fix yourself. You need to stop reinforcing the code that says you're broken. Every time you interrupt a loop, you reclaim bandwidth. That bandwidth is energy. And energy is identity. The more energy you reclaim, the more powerful your frequency becomes. This is the exit from the simulation. Not with more thought, with more presence, more choice, more disruption. Next, we will examine how your words become quantum-level commands and how to write identity scripts that rewire your field with surgical precision. Words shape more than your story. They shape your field. They are not just sounds or symbols. They are carriers of energetic instruction. Spoken with precision and emotional charge, they become quantum commands. Language, when paired with conscious intention and embodiment, directs reality. You've likely used affirmations before. You've heard phrases like, I am confident, or I am abundant. You may have repeated them daily, but chances are they didn't work. They felt forced, hollow. Maybe they even triggered resistance. That's because traditional affirmations lack resonance. They don't speak to the field. They bounce off the subconscious instead of penetrating it. To command your identity at the quantum level, your words must meet specific criteria. They must carry energetic truth. They must be spoken in alignment with physiology. They must be reinforced through repetition and action. They must bypass the analytical mind. Otherwise, they're noise. Here's the principle. The body listens to signals, not sentences. If your words say one thing and your nervous system says another, the field responds to the stronger signal. And in most cases, the nervous system wins. You may say, I am worthy. But if your posture collapses, your tone is uncertain, and your breath is shallow, you're broadcasting lack. The field responds to coherence, not intention. Let's deconstruct this. Every time you speak, you generate vibration. That vibration is modulated by your emotional state, your breathing rhythm, and your belief system. Together, they create a unique energetic fingerprint. This fingerprint is what your subconscious and the quantum field both read. A true quantum affirmation is not a phrase. It's a command script encoded with energy, emotion, and embodiment. Let's build one properly. 1. Identify the identity code you are installing. This isn't about what you want. It's about who you're becoming. Don't write affirmations like goals. Write them like descriptions of your current frequency. Not, I will be powerful, but I radiate precision and power in every word I speak. Avoid vague phrases like, I am successful. That lacks specificity. The field responds better to defined signals. Better. I move through every conversation with presence, calm, and unwavering clarity. 2. Structure language in present tense with sensory anchoring. Present tense is non-negotiable. Your subconscious does not process future tense as real. It registers it as delay. Use action-oriented phrasing. Include physical, emotional, or environmental cues. For example, I stand tall, breathe slowly, and speak with calm authority in every moment of challenge. This gives your nervous system and subconscious multiple access points. Posture, breath, emotion, context. It feels real because it maps onto sensory reality. 3. Activate emotional resonance. Flat affirmations fall flat. The field needs charge. Before you speak, access the emotional signature that matches the affirmation. Feel it in the body. Amplify it. Only then speak the words. Otherwise, you're reciting, not transmitting. 4. Deliver with full vocal engagement. Tone and pace matter. Speak from your diaphragm. Pause between key phrases. Let your voice resonate. Feel the words vibrate in your bones. When your voice carries presence, your energy becomes magnetic. 5. Repeat during brainwave prime states. Beta won't cut it. Use theta or alpha to embed new commands. Best times: immediately after waking, during breath work, or right before sleep. These are windows of heightened plasticity. In these moments, your commands write directly into the subconscious code. 6. Reinforce through identity behavior. Each time you speak a command, follow with congruent action. Doesn't have to be dramatic. Small is enough as long as it's aligned. If you say, I take bold, clear action, then send that email you've been avoiding. Action seals the command. Without it, the signal weakens. Let's now address a subtle trap: cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance happens when your mind hears one thing, but knows another to be true. For example, you say, I am calm under pressure, but your experience has been panic and overreaction. This contradiction creates internal friction. Your system resists the new command. Here's how to bypass it. Use transitional command scripting. That means you acknowledge the shift, rather than pretending it's already perfect. For example, I am stabilizing in my new pattern of speaking with steady, grounded authority, even in uncertainty. This frames the shift as active. It's real. It reduces resistance, and your subconscious is far more likely to integrate it. Another way to reduce resistance is to embed sensory memory. Attach your affirmation to a remembered state. For instance, I return to the grounded confidence I felt when I led with presence, even when no one else understood. You may not have felt it often, but if you felt it once, it's enough. The memory becomes a frequency key. The affirmation becomes a resonant signal, not an abstract idea. Now, consider the power of silence between words. When affirmations are rushed, they dilute. But when spaced with intention, when pauses are held after impact words, they echo deeper. For example, I move. With clarity, I speak. With precision, I lead. From center, each pause becomes a command in itself. Silence gives space for energy to embed. You're not just speaking to yourself. You're speaking to the field. You're sending instructions. And the more precise your language, the more precise the results. Here's a full sample affirmation command, layered for maximum impact. I walk upright, grounded in my breath. I speak with tone that cuts through noise. I no longer ask for space, I take it. I no longer doubt, I decide. I am no longer searching, I am signaling. Say this aloud during alpha or theta, with full voice, with posture aligned. Repeat for 21 days. Reinforce with aligned action. Track the external shifts. You will see them. You are not convincing the world. You are convincing the field. And the field always answers coherent commands. Next, we will explore how your posture, breath, and movement become signal anchors, installing the new self directly into the body. The body is not separate from identity. It is the container, the amplifier, the transmitter. If you don't shift the body, you don't shift the self. True transformation doesn't happen in the mind alone. It must become physical. Every version of you exists as a specific energetic pattern. That pattern includes how you walk, breathe, move, hold tension, make eye contact, and carry your spine. These are not random. They are expressions of your current frequency. And they either lock in the old identity or open the door to the new one. Embodying the shift means deliberately adopting the physicality of the self you are becoming. You are not pretending. You are anchoring. Start here. The body cannot lie. Your subconscious is stored in muscle memory. If you attempt to become someone new but your shoulders are hunched, your jaw is tight, your hands are clenched, and your eyes dart from place to place, your nervous system is still broadcasting fear, hesitation, and self-contraction. The field will listen to your body, not your words. That's why this chapter is critical. You must not only speak differently, you must move differently. Let's begin with posture. Posture is not aesthetic. It is frequency containment. An aligned spine allows for unbroken energy flow. A collapsed spine distorts the signal. When you correct your posture, you shift your entire field. You change breath. You change blood flow. You change neural feedback. You change presence. Don't wait for confidence to stand tall. Stand tall to create confidence. Shoulders relaxed but open. Neck long. Chin neither high nor low. Centered. Breathe through your nose. Let the breath fall into the belly. Let it rise calmly through the chest. This is your neutral energetic base. Practice it until it becomes unconscious. Next is breath. Breath regulates your emotional state. Fast, shallow breathing tells your system you're unsafe. Slow, diaphragmatic breathing sends the opposite message. Use breath to tune your frequency. Practice this daily. Inhale for 5 counts. Hold for 2. Exhale for 7. Pause for 2. This pattern rewires your system into calm power. It also increases vagal tone, strengthening your parasympathetic nervous system. Over time, this gives you energetic sovereignty. Now, let's bring in movement. Movement generates momentum. When you shift how you move, you shift what you magnetize. Start paying attention to micro-movements. How do you walk into rooms? How do you reach for objects? How do you gesture when speaking? Your future self moves with clarity and minimal hesitation. Every movement is intentional, economical, unhurried. Begin practicing this. Walk as though your presence shifts the space. Not as an act of arrogance, but as an act of authority. This isn't arrogance. This is energetic authorship. Now add facial cues. Your face is a frequency broadcaster. Your micro-expressions are read constantly by others and by your own subconscious. Practice maintaining a soft jaw, steady eyes, and neutral mouth. Smiling too much to ease others' discomfort drains power. Frowning or tensing the brow signals internal friction. Neutral, calm authority should become your facial default. Next, let's speak about body-based identity rituals. These are small, repetitive actions you perform to encode the new self into your nervous system. Examples: walking slowly while repeating your identity command script. Cold showers to reinforce resilience. Stretching or mobility flow while speaking future-based mantras. Closing your eyes and practicing presence in a mirror. Silent walking with full sensory awareness. These rituals must be consistent. They must be treated with sacred intent. Over time, they program your body to embody the shift without conscious thought. Now a word on rhythm. Rhythm is identity. Every self has a tempo. The frantic version of you moves fast, interrupts others, fidgets, and rushes decisions. The aligned self moves with rhythm, grace, and stillness. Begin adopting slower tempo. Let silence be comfortable. Let movement be deliberate. Your rhythm communicates your level of inner alignment. The more embodied the shift becomes, the less effort is needed to maintain it. Eventually, you wake up and walk, speak, and breathe as the new self automatically. The nervous system has accepted the update. But be warned, the old body habits will fight to return. They are efficient, comfortable, known. You must hold awareness. Correct without judgment. Reinforce without delay. This is not performative. It is transformational. When your body matches your voice. When your breath matches your thoughts. When your posture matches your inner frequency. The world begins to respond in new ways. You no longer need to convince anyone of who you are. You simply transmit it. Next, we will enter the essential threshold. The letting go. The collapse. The sacred release of all that no longer aligns. Change is not just creation. It is also destruction. You cannot build the new self while still negotiating with the old one. You cannot carry past versions of yourself into higher frequencies. They distort the signal. They dilute the command. They pull you back into timelines where you no longer belong. There must be a collapse. This isn't poetic. This is practical. Old identities must die, not gradually, not politely, but fully. The collapse is sacred. It is the clean break that liberates the nervous system from looping patterns. Without this collapse, every step forward is slowed by the drag of the past. And yet, few people complete this stage. Why? Because identity death feels like real death. The emotional system interprets it as annihilation. It will do everything it can to preserve the known, even if the known is miserable. This is not weakness. This is programming. The body resists collapse because it confuses discomfort with danger. But discomfort is not danger. Discomfort is evolution. Now, what does identity death look like? It begins as internal friction. You start to feel out of place in your routines. Your conversations feel hollow. The habits you once relied on feel foreign. You know you are not who you were, but you're not yet stabilized in the new frequency. You're between selves. This is the void. It is uncomfortable. It is disorienting, but it is necessary. If you try to escape this void by going back to what's familiar, by numbing out, by rushing ahead without alignment, you reattach to the old identity. You must stay in the collapse long enough for the old code to dissolve. This means surrender. Not passive surrender. Active surrender. Choosing to let the old burn. Choosing to feel the emptiness fully. Choosing to trust the silence between who you were and who you are becoming. Let's talk about what needs to collapse. 1. Emotional attachments. These are old stories you've wrapped around pain. The belief that your suffering defines you. The identity of the misunderstood one, the victim, the overachiever, the one who never fits in. These must be burned, not because they are wrong, but because they are outdated. You outgrew them, but they stayed. 2. Social roles. You have performed identities for approval, love, and survival. The good child, the overfunctioning adult, the caretaker, the rebel, the spiritual one, the high performer. These roles may have served you, but now they trap you. They must be stripped away. 3. Language loops. The way you talk about yourself, even casually, must be purified. I've always been like this. That's just how I am. This always happens. These phrases are incantations. They reinforce the timeline of the dying self. Remove them from your vocabulary entirely. 4. Environment echoes. Objects, places, and people that echo the old self carry energetic residue. The closet full of clothes that reflect who you no longer are. The playlists that match your past pain. The spaces where you made self-betraying decisions. Clean them out. You don't need nostalgia. You need alignment. Now let's move to the process of collapse. 1. Set the ritual space. You are not doing mindset work. You are conducting an energetic death. Treat it like a ritual. Choose a time and space. Cleanse it. Sit in stillness. Acknowledge the parts of you that are ready to die. Speak their names aloud. Thank them. Grieve them. Then release them. Speak their release into the field. 2. Induce the emotional burn. Feel the emotions that arise without flinching. Shame, anger, grief. Let them move through the body. Scream into a pillow. Shake, cry, sweat. There is no elegance here. Just energy in motion. Once you let it rise, it will release. 3. Speak the final word. This is the moment of severance. Choose a phrase that seals the collapse. For example, I am no longer available for who I was. That version of me has ended. The signal has changed. The field is clear. Speak it with force, with certainty, with finality. 4. Transition into stillness. After the release, enter silence. No words, no thoughts, just presence. Your field is recalibrating. The nervous system is resetting. This is not the time to analyze. Let the void do its work. 5. Mark the shift with action. Once the collapse is complete, act differently. Wear something that represents the new self. Rearrange your space. Send a message that the old self would never have sent. Move your body differently. Let the new frequency take root. This entire process is not a one-time event. It is a cycle. You will outgrow your current self again and again. Each time you will return to the collapse. But it becomes easier, cleaner, sharper. You no longer fear it. You welcome it. Because you understand, collapse is clarity. You don't have to mourn who you were. That self brought you here. But it cannot take you further. There is no shame in identity death. Only liberation. Next we will explore how to live inside the new frequency, where synchronicity replaces effort and alignment becomes your default operating mode. There comes a moment when the shift is complete, when the old self no longer feels like home, when the behaviors that once felt forced now feel natural, when the people and patterns that used to pull you back no longer have access to you. This is the new normal, but it is not autopilot. It is active alignment. Living the quantum identity means stabilizing the new frequency, daily, consciously, skillfully. It means understanding that identity is not a destination. It is a transmission, one that must be maintained, upgraded, and reinforced through practice. Let's begin with this foundational idea. Stabilization requires integration. You've shifted. You've collapsed the old. You've practiced the new codes. But now you must live as that new version. Not in your mind, in your habits, in your speech, in your timing, in your presence. Integration means that the frequency doesn't fade when life gets chaotic. It means the new identity holds even under stress, even in challenge, even when no one else mirrors it back. Let's break down the pillars of quantum identity maintenance. 1. Energetic hygiene. Your field is your first priority. That means you must be aware of anything that drains, distorts, or disrupts your coherence. This includes toxic conversations, low-frequency environments, unaligned media consumption, and your own inner dialogue. Start your day with this question: is my energy clean? Scan your body. Scan your thoughts. Clear what needs clearing. Don't proceed into the world with a tangled field. 2. Consistent frequency practices. What gets you into alignment must become a ritual, not an emergency tool. Meditation, breath work, visualization, mirror work, sound tuning, movement. Whatever stabilizes your signal must be done daily, even when you feel good. This is not maintenance. This is mastery. 3. Choice point awareness. Your day is filled with forks, micro-decisions that either reinforce the old identity or the new one. Awareness is everything. Catch the moment you're about to react from your past self. Interrupt it. Choose the aligned action even if it's small. These choice points are where the new identity becomes real. 4. Command-level language. Continue to speak like your quantum identity. No self-deprecating jokes. No casual complaining. No false humility. Your words are still commands. Every phrase must match your frequency. When someone asks how you are, speak as your quantum self would. When someone doubts you, respond with the tone of truth, not explanation. You're not here to convince. You're here to transmit. 5. Identity expansion cycles. The quantum identity is not static. It evolves. Each time you reach stability, stretch further. Add new codes. Set new standards. Challenge the edge. Otherwise, the frequency begins to plateau. And plateaus invite regression. Use these expansion prompts weekly. What aspect of my current identity is becoming too familiar? What challenge would only the next version of me accept without hesitation? Where am I hiding excellence behind comfort? 6. Synchronicity tracking. As you live inside the new frequency, synchronicities will increase. Take note, a message at the right time, a sudden opportunity, an intuitive nudge. These are not coincidences. They are confirmations. The field is responding to your coherence. Document these synchronicities. Build evidence. It sharpens belief. It reinforces alignment. It upgrades certainty. 7. Alignment over outcome. Stop measuring success only by external results. Start measuring it by internal alignment. Did you make the choice your highest self would have made? Did you hold the frequency when it was tested? Did you maintain coherence even in chaos? This is the real win, and this win compounds. 8. Inner calibration check-ins. Once a day, pause and ask, am I living as the self I chose? Don't overthink it. Just feel it. If the answer is no, adjust. If the answer is yes, reinforce. Self-check-ins prevent unconscious drift. Now let's address sabotage. Sometimes when the shift stabilizes, sabotage appears. You may pick a fight. You may binge distractions. You may suddenly fear the attention you've called in. This is not failure. This is your nervous system testing the signal. Answer the test with action. Realign. Immediately. And if you feel the desire to slow down, do so. Rest is not regression. Rest is recalibration. Just make sure it is intentional, not avoidance in disguise. Here's the final truth. Once you've stabilized in your new frequency, you no longer chase outcomes. They arrive. Because you are no longer vibrating at the level of need. You are transmitting from the level of embodiment. You don't manifest things. You attract matches. The version of you that lives from coherence becomes magnetically obvious to the field. People feel it. Events sync with it. Obstacles clear before it. Not because you're lucky, but because you are now congruent. Next, we will explore the final layer of this path. Limitless becoming, where your will shapes reality, and your identity becomes an ever-evolving, ever-expanding energetic force. At this point, you've collapsed the old self. You've encoded a new signal. You've embodied the identity that once lived only in possibility. You've stepped out of looping simulations. You've spoken new commands into your field. You've synchronized your thoughts, breath, movement, and tone. And now you're standing at the edge of something even greater. Limitless becoming. This is not a metaphor. This is the state of fully stabilized quantum willpower, where identity is no longer a static construct, but a dynamic force. One you guide with awareness. One you evolve with precision. One you live through as an ever-upgrading interface between consciousness and creation. The final shift is this. You stop asking who you are. You start deciding what you will transmit next. The version of you that operates at this level is not obsessed with becoming something specific. They are committed to staying in energetic authorship. This is not personal development. This is energetic architecture. You are not a product of your past. You are not a reaction to your environment. You are a sovereign frequency system, fully programmable, fully fluid, fully capable of generating the next version of yourself in real time. But this level requires one final upgrade, the removal of identity as a destination. Let's define that clearly. Most transformation stops at stability. You achieve alignment. You see results. You feel strong. But then the mind begins to grasp. It clings to this new self. It forms a new ego around your progress. That ego says, now I've made it. That is the trap. Because as soon as you stop shifting, the field stops adapting. And when the field stops adapting, stagnation returns. The true master of quantum willpower knows identity must remain in motion. You don't reach your final form. You reach your current form and then you upgrade again. Your will is no longer used just to break old patterns. It becomes the force that shapes space, time, probability, and embodiment with unshakable clarity. Let's step into what this looks like. The field around you is responsive. Always, not sometimes. Always. It is not waiting for you to be perfect. It is waiting for you to transmit a stable signal. And when you do, it bends to meet you. Your will is the force that keeps that signal unbroken, especially when circumstances try to pull you off course. Here's what it takes to live as quantum willpower itself. 1. Identity as a current, not a container. Stop asking, who am I? Start asking, what frequency do I need to generate today? This reorients your energy. It dissolves the trap of overdefining yourself. You are not a title, not a role, not even a personality. You are a living, breathing transmission. Wake up and decide, today, I am the version of me who handles complexity with elegance, who enters every room with calm voltage, who shifts tension into power. That decision becomes a tuning fork. The field responds. 2. Rapid signal switching. At this level, you can shift states faster than ever before. You no longer need days or hours to recover from old patterns. You can now switch frequencies in seconds. This is a trained reflex. It looks like this. You feel old anxiety rising. You pause. You drop into breath. You say aloud, that is no longer my signal. You change your posture. You anchor a new phrase. You transmit calm. Instantly, the timeline realigns. This is quantum willpower in real-time application. It's not emotionless. It's directive. You don't suppress. You redirect. 3. Seamless command looping. Your language, movement, and intention now operate as a feedback system. You speak your command, your body reinforces it, your behavior confirms it, and the field mirrors it. It becomes seamless. The internal dialogue is no longer confused. You no longer second-guess yourself at every turn. You give yourself instructions and you follow them. This is not robotic. This is clean signal transmission. 4. Vision tethering. You keep your quantum field tethered to your future frequency, not the outcome, but the version of yourself capable of navigating it. That version becomes your magnetic north. You hold this vision lightly, but consistently. You no longer chase it. You move from it. This means you stop waiting for the world to confirm who you are. You embody it repeatedly until the world adjusts, and it always does. 5. Code purification. You become obsessed with signal clarity. Any belief, phrase, relationship, or behavior that muddies your frequency is immediately addressed. You're not harsh. You're precise. You no longer tolerate contradiction inside your field. If a thought arises that doesn't match your chosen identity, you don't argue with it. You discard it. If a situation activates a lower pattern, you recenter immediately. Not out of fear, but out of authority. This is mastery, not control. Precision. 6. Expansion without friction. The most powerful signal does not strain. It flows. When you operate at this level, expansion becomes easeful. It doesn't mean you won't be challenged. It means challenge no longer derails you. You treat disruption as an opportunity to fortify the signal. Resistance becomes feedback. Contrast becomes clarity. Pressure becomes refinement. You're not rigid. You're dynamic. You adjust without shrinking. 7. Limitless identity streaming. You now have access to a state beyond fixed identity. You can pull in qualities, traits, and frequencies from any potential self. Creativity from one version. Precision from another. Compassion from a third. You're not pretending. You're channeling. You've built the neurological and energetic capacity to hold multiple high-frequency traits at once. This is waveform fusion. You become multidimensional, adaptable, unstoppable. Here's how to do it. Start your day with a brief calibration. What energetic traits serve today's mission? Select 2 to 3 codes. Clarity, confidence, speed, silence, precision, joy. Embody each one in breath, movement, tone. Set micro checkpoints through the day to verify transmission. This isn't mood management. It's identity design. 8. Sovereign field maintenance. At this level, your field becomes self-reinforcing. But that doesn't mean it's invincible. You still maintain it daily. You still clean it, tune it, amplify it. You use silence, stillness, sound, intention, time in nature, digital boundaries, energetic protection practices. You no longer expect others to match your frequency. You hold yours anyway, without apology, without compromise. The quantum field does not reward who is loudest. It rewards who is clearest. Let's now complete the arc. You began this journey believing your identity was fixed. You now know it's a signal, a frequency, a script, a waveform that can be tuned, collapsed, and reconstructed with conscious will. You learned how thoughts encode, how timelines shift, how body, breath, and sound act as anchors, how willpower, when purified of conflict, becomes a shaping force, not through pressure, but through resonance. And now you stand fully resourced. You don't need new information. You need new repetition. You don't need more knowledge. You need more coherence. You don't need a plan. You need a pulse. Each time you feel lost, ask yourself one question. What version of me do I need to broadcast right now? Then broadcast it, fully, audibly, physically, repeatedly, without seeking proof, without permission, without delay. That's the final shift. You no longer seek identity. You generate it. You no longer rehearse change. You embody it. You no longer wait for transformation. You are the field. Quantum willpower is not the power to become something. It is the power to command reality through the precision of frequency. And you are now holding that command. Live it, reinforce it, upgrade it. There is no end, only signal.